it'll be available.
Remember, this Gen 6, so
So we're not doing that? Okay. We're moving ahead to the agenda number 3, the consent agenda. Are there any items that members want to remove from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to remove item 3A, April 2018 transactions, and also the May 7 minutes, meeting minutes. There we go.
What was the date again? Okay, any others? Okay. Seeing none, we'll accept the consent agenda as is.
except for those two.
Except for those 2 items, thank you. All right. Then we'll go ahead and discuss those items set aside.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, you need to vote on,
wait, what,
no, go ahead.
did we vote already?
No. No, go
Tell
ahead.
you what my problems are? Okay.
No.
On item 3A, April 2018 transactions, Bobby Avery is listed as the Chief Academic Officer instead of Chief Administrative Officer. Unless that is a role you would like to take on, Bobby, I would suggest we fix that. Okay. And then on the May 7th minutes, bottom of the 3rd page. One second. Nope, that's not. Bottom of the 3rd page, the motion voted under the Regional Service Center agreement reads, blah, 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 beyond this first year, should the agreement not be amended to place an LSL member in the Regional Service Center Board. LSL meaning, thank you.
All right, there's a motion to make those changes. We'll accept the changes as amended. Those in favor?
Motion.
Oh, we need a motion, sorry. Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Hutchinson? Did you get everything?
Yeah.
Okay, those in favor now. Thank you. Item number 4, to receive and approve the nomination for an Assistant Human Resource Director. This will be presented by Mr. Webster.
Yes, I'm very pleased to nominate Monique Gilbert for this new position. You may recall the board approved this position a month or so ago, and so we're very fortunate to find Monique. And our HR director, Carol Burnham, is here to introduce Monique to everybody, and Monique is also here to say a few words to the board either before action on the motion, if there is a motion.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Monique Gilbert. She has 20-plus years of school experience in HR functions and also bargaining agreements. She comes to us from IUS 18. Monique Gilbert.
Thank you all. I'm very eager and excited to be joining the Wilson Public Schools HR team, assisting hiring, staffing, all functions of the department. And as Carol said, I have 25 plus years, and during that time, I've had the opportunity to develop my skills and expertise in all aspects of school operations, working in the superintendent's office.
Any discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we receive and approve the nomination for Assistant Human Resource Director.
We have a motion. And we have a second. Those in favor? It's unanimous. Welcome aboard. Okay, the next item on the agenda is for public input. By show of hands, anybody from the public who would like to have input? Seeing none, we'll move ahead.
There's one teacher right
Oh, sorry, didn't see you. All right, so, didn't see the hand there, sorry about that. So the purpose of this item is to permit members of the audience to address the school committee on non-agenda items. Comments regarding employees must be reserved for executive session as required by Maine state law. At the discretion of the chairperson, audience members may be permitted to speak on regular items. In all cases, comments by members of the public shall be directed to the school committee and be relative to the matter at hand. Comments that pertain to personnel or other student matters should be directed to the appropriate staff members of the Lewiston Public Schools. Comments should be brief and not repetitious, and time limits should be respected. So if you could please just come up to the podium, push the button there, and state your name and ward number or address.
Hi, yes. Good evening. My name's Donna Olson, and I teach social studies at Lewiston High School. And I don't have my readers, so bear with me. Oh, so wonderful. I'll take whatever I can get. I left mine in the car. They're perfect. Thank you. I'm one of the 12 teachers at Lewiston High School who graded using a 1 to 4 scale. To put it simply, I was crushed by the decision to go back to a 100-point scale for grading at the high school because I believe so strongly in what we're doing, and I believe that we're doing it well. And that if given time and experience, the resistance in the community would have dissipated. That being said, I understand that at this moment, in this community and with this board, our high school cannot move forward with a 1 to 4 grading. So I put my disillusionment aside, and I did my best work with all stakeholders to arrive at an alternative that would maintain rigor for the students of Lewiston High School while satisfying the comfort factor that so many community members argued for. I worked with Jake, Kirsten, ninth grade teachers, content leaders, and parents and students to draft a new grading policy. Through many meetings and negotiations, we talked freely and we gave our opinions about numbers and language and categories and arrived at the policy being presented to you tonight. This is a document that balances the core of what we as educators believe to be ethically responsible in a standards-based world with the familiarity of a 100-point scale. I respectfully request that you honor the diligence of those involved in crafting it and approve the IKA policy. I want to be ready to do the best I can for the incoming freshmen next year, and in order to do that, I need time to adjust or even create new scoring rubrics. I need time with my colleagues in planning for next year so that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Any others that would like to come up and speak? All right, before we continue, I just want to make sure, Sean, Mr. Shabbat, still don't see video, but can you just double check, like on? It is streaming? Okay, thanks for double checking. I just want to make sure. I just didn't see it on the monitor over here. Thank you. Moving ahead, we'll go to item number 6, report from student representatives.
So today was the 8th day left for seniors. Woo! The athletic complex is really shaping up. They just laid the turf about a week ago, and it looks really good. If you haven't had a chance, sneak up in the back parking lot. You can catch a glimpse of it or see Mr. Webster's tweet. It's really like the royal blue on it. It's really good. This past Saturday, prom was at the Core Temple. It went over really, really well. The juniors did an awesome job putting it on. You could tell they put a lot of effort into it. They even added some live performances, which was really cool to see. The senior day trip to Old Orchard Beach is Friday. And the weather is looking really good. It's supposed to be 85 and sunny, so hopefully it stays that way. The top 10 luncheon is this Wednesday at the Green Ladle. I don't know if I don't think it's open to the public, but yeah. Okay. Um, Class elections were held last week, so congratulations to all the students who campaigned and won. Hopefully they do a great job next year. I'm sure they will. Things are wrapping up. For seniors, the senior gifts have arrived. This year we're doing stickers, really nice stickers, a nice water bottle, and then a really nice string bag. Project Grad is finalized. Everything's ready to go for after graduation. As a junior last year, we got really lucky to go so we could experience it and see what it's like. So we made a lot of changes, and hopefully it'll go over smoother this year. Personally, I'm finishing up my senior memoir, which is probably one of the nicest, coolest projects I've been able to do all 4 years of high school. It's really cool to see. I'm also finishing working on my graduation speech, which is a little surreal, but I'm really excited to have that at graduation. And then this would be my last meeting. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I can't remember if it was Mr. Langos or Mr. Chabot who first picked me for this, but thank you. It's been a really good time.
So, unlike Matt, I have another year to go. And I wasn't at prom, so I totally missed out. So, there will be an instrumental concert tomorrow at the middle school at 7 p.m. For more information about the concert, please contact Mrs. Nelson or Mr. Avery at the high school. And on May 30th, there will be an art show and ice cream social at Montello from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And I would like to invite you all to come to Museum LA tomorrow. Oh, no, not tomorrow. On Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. There will be a new exhibit designed by students at the high school, including myself. And the exhibit will cover a wide range of topics, including local history, U.S. history, world history, and cultural and family history. And it's free, but only for that night. And refreshments will be available, so I hope to see you there.
Before we move ahead, we do have a certificate of appreciation to provide Matt. It reads, your dedication to your education, your participation of the Lewiston School Committee, and your exemplary leadership and representation as a student of Lewiston High School is awarded to Matt Hurd. So, Matt, would you like to have a photo with the entire group? Oh, yeah. Would that be fun? Yeah. So before we move ahead, I want to continue and say thank you to Matt. RJ has been I think he's been a great example to RJ. I think she's filling some great shoes next year, and I'm really excited to hear all the events that are happening in our school district, and even in our consent agenda, it was amazing to see all the field trips that were outside, just exploratory. It's just an exciting time of the year. I know all the teachers are excited as well, but I don't know how you guys rein in those students and keep them at bay to go forward. Before we continue, though, I know Ms. Hutchinson had a little something she wanted to say as well.
So being a parent from the class of 18, I have to say that Matt has represented this class for the last 4 years. Through all the trouble, through all the roadblocks, through all the unknowns and uncertainty, and Matt, you did it with class, and you made sure to include the parents. You've been part of our Facebook group. You've invited us to be part of the class Facebook group, and together we've watched you grow up, mature, and become the adult you are today. So congratulations from the parents of the class.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the input that you brought to this board. We really appreciate the student perspective as well. Any others that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move ahead to the next agenda item, number 7, to receive a presentation from the Lewiston Education Committee. This will be presented by a member of the LEF. Who's this? Lewiston Education Fund.
Hey, good evening. My name is Keith Bourne. I'm the president of the board for the Lewiston Education Fund. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for having us as part of the meeting tonight. For those of you who don't know about the LEF, we generate funding for academic enrichment opportunities that fall outside of the normal school budget. We support educators in their development of an innovative curriculum that challenges students to think outside the box, to inspire students, and to enhance their overall learning experience. We hope as a board that our efforts continue to inspire students to embrace new learning opportunities and prepare them for a successful future. We do this by awarding teacher grants and by funding our signature project. And last year, between the signature project and our teacher grants, we put over 30,000 back into the Lewiston Public School System. This was by far our largest year, and we hope to continue that momentum and see it keep growing. The LEF has an organized, skilled, and robust all-volunteer board. Everybody on the board is very passionate about education in Lewiston and dedicated to our mission. The board's responsibilities include soliciting, retaining corporate, personal, and institutional charitable donations. And we want to thank our corporate sponsors. We have LL Bean, Project Tipping Point, Austin & Associates, and United Insurance. And finally, the board reviews the grant submissions that we get that meet our mission and award those grants that expand educational opportunities in Lewiston schools. Our applications go out in August typically, and the early deadline is the end of September, and our final deadline is in December. And that application can be found on our website. We just had a reception for our winners this year, and it turned out great. We want to thank everyone for coming. I want to highlight a few of those this year just to say what some of our accomplishments were this year. So we awarded one to Stephanie Couture, and this was to purchase a green screen for her classroom. Her middle school students learned how to use green screen technology for meteorological productions, lighting productions, and the software needed to run this program. And she's planning to collaborate with meteorologists on learning the program even further and to demonstrate their knowledge of the program and weather to the meteorologists. Stephanie is a multi-time winner, and she's always impressing the board with her grant submissions and the work that she does. Next, we had Jen Carter, who's part of the 21st Century program. We sent her students to a long weekend at Camp Kiev. This was part of a larger leadership program that was for the whole year. The students had to work collaboratively, working on ropes courses and climbing walls, and overcoming their own personal fears. They learned how to lead and mentor others at the same time. Jen came in and spoke to us as a board, and she told us how many of her students didn't even know what they were capable of throughout until they finished this program. So it was really rewarding to hear and inspiring. Finally, we had Sue Smith. She's building a STEM classroom at McMahon. So she was able to purchase robots this year where students will learn technology, engineering, and programming. These robots will expose students to additional technology to elevate their learning experience and to new career opportunities. We certainly expect more out of Sue's classroom and can't wait to see what she has next for next year. In addition to these, we had 4 other grants that were just as well. I wish I could talk about all of them tonight. We had handouts that hopefully you can read more about those. And finally, we have our signature project. This is where we currently send every 7th grader at Lewiston Middle School to the LL Bean Outdoor Discovery Program. This trip is the culmination of an entire year-long project where the students learn about the state of Maine, its history, and the potential career opportunities that it has to offer. Students kayak, fly fish, paddleboard, and shoot archery. This is experiences that many of our students would never have the chance to do on their own, let alone just see the ocean and do water activities. So how do we raise the funds for this? As I mentioned, we have a strong group of local businesses that continue to support us. In addition, we generously receive funds through school employee payroll contributions and by holding multiple fundraisers throughout the year. Our next event is going to be on June 15th, a Friday. We're holding our 2nd annual Global Golf Tournament. It's a really fun event. We hold it right at Apple Valley in Lewiston. Just if you've never been to a Global Tournament, just going out there and seeing it pitch black with golf balls flying all over is really cool. It's really hard to, so don't even, man. Our biggest event is our Harvest Dinner, which is held October 17th this year. It's going to be our 9th annual. We hold this at Fishbones each year. It's a 5-course dinner with wine pairings at each course, so it's obviously a good time. There's live auctions, silent auctions, and many other raffles. So thank you for having us here again tonight. We wanted to share our accomplishments and more importantly, share the impact of the Lewiston school system and also share the work that our teachers are doing in our schools. They continue to amaze us and inspire us and really validate what we're doing, and we wouldn't be around if it wasn't for them, and we're lucky to be a part of what they're doing. So we're always looking for additional board members if anyone's interested in what we're doing. Little plug, sorry. So please check us out on our website, and I don't know, on Facebook we'll have more information about our events coming up, and there's also a nice little donate button on there as well. So again, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you for that presentation. Was there anything from the board that would like to speak? Seeing none, but Mr. Webster.
Well, I just want to thank Keith Moore and the entire LEF board. I've been associated with it since my starting in Lewiston 7.5 years ago, and collectively in that time frame, there's been perhaps $200,000 that has benefited the teachers and most importantly the students of Lewiston Public Schools, and I think it's just a wonderful resource, and thank you for your dedication to it.
And I'd like to say thank you to all the board members who do volunteer their time, but also the entire community that contribute and participate and make an impact, in not only for the grants, but the grant process as well. If it wasn't for that, this committee wouldn't exist. So, but it's a great pleasure to see that happening and to improve for the betterment of our programs and in our school district. So thank you. So I need a motion.
No motion required.
No motion? It's just written there on my paper? That's a motion? Okay. Anyway, we'll move ahead then. But thank you. Oh, I'm reading the wrong thing. All right, so item number 8. To receive and approve the recommendation that the Lewiston High School gym floor be named after former longtime athletic director Fern Massey. Athletic Director Jason Fuller will present.
Thank you for having me tonight. Bear with me if I get a little emotional about this. I'm speaking about a guy that means the world to me and has been a huge contributor to Lewiston as a community and in particular the athletic world here in Lewiston. I've supplied a bio, but I just want to go over a couple things. Fern Massey was a 1953 graduate of Lewiston High School where he starred in basketball and baseball, went on to star at USM. He I'm going to say this, we were lucky to have him return in 1958, where he spent 29 years teaching both math and, he did that a couple years, but it was industrial arts where he spent most of his time. After teaching for 29 years, he became the athletic director for 10 years. The thing that stands out is his implications and his impact in the world of basketball. Fern is the longest tenured basketball coach in Lewiston history. He has the most wins. He won 2 regional championships. And outside of that, he established Hoop Camp back 48 years ago. His impact in our community is significant, but statewide, I think his impact has been monumental with the Hoop Camp and things he's done. You look at some of his accomplishments. In 1988, he was inducted into the USM Hall of Fame. 2005, the Auburn Lewiston Sports Hall of Fame. 2006, the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. And then just recently in 2016, he was inducted into the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame. The thing that's missing is we've done nothing in Lewiston to honor this man. And I can't think of any better way to honor his accomplishments, his service to our community. Outside of basketball, outside of teaching, being an AD, he's served civically, being involved with the Y. He's served as a Franklin Pastor trustee since he retired. He's been the president and highly involved in the new project. He's led scholarship committees, and I just think it's time for us to honor an individual who's given so much to the community. With the floor being resurfaced this year, and it's going to be blank wood, I think this is a great opportunity for us to nominate, to honor him for the things he's done. Personally, I was hired in 95, and he's been on every step of the way. He's been there. Whether it was I was a teacher, whether I was a coach, now as an AD, he's the first guy I call to ask for advice. What do you think? He stops in randomly once every couple weeks just to check on things. He checks on other coaches. Here's a person that really, truly cares about our school and our community. And I think it's a great opportunity to name the floor after him and do it while he's here to experience it and open the basketball season next year at home with a ceremony to honor the floor after Fern Massey.
Discussion from the board.
I'd like to move that we approve that the LHS gym floor be named after Athletic Director Fern Massey.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to say thank you for bringing this forward. It takes a great eye and observation and time and commitment to bring that forward, and we certainly appreciate your time. Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. He's going to be very excited.
Just going to let the room clear out for a little bit. All right. So I see there's a few students in the audience. If the board doesn't object, I wouldn't mind moving to agenda item number 10 before doing item number 9. And that is to receive a presentation regarding Star Academy. Is that okay with the board? Okay. Seeing no objection, I'll welcome Travis Jalbert, who's the dean at Star Academy, to present.
I brought some friends with me tonight as well, so there's a few other people. Thank you for having us tonight. We're happy to be here. It's exciting to always share some information about Star Academy. There's still some times where I feel like there's not enough people that know about what we do or where we're located. If anyone's sitting here that doesn't know, Star Academy is a freshman team that's located off campus. We are at the Lewiston Armory. and we serve 61 ninth grade students. I have a little piece that I wrote, and then I'm going to open it up to a few of our students to speak. I have a parent that's here as well, and I also have Sue Rennie, who's here, who is our social studies teacher with our program. So good evening, my name is Travis Jalbert. I'm the Dean of Students at Star Academy. I'm joined by a few students, a parent, and Sue Rennie, social studies teacher. Thank you for having us tonight. We are excited to have the opportunity to share a little bit about our program and how essential we feel it is for our district. So what is Star Academy? Star Academy is a learning environment that is responsive, supportive, and rigorous. Our program uses equipment supplied by Pittsco and curriculum guidance to create a hands-on learning environment, especially in the core subjects of math and science. Students are able to access curriculum at their own pace with modern-day technology to assist in this process. We have a group of 61 heterogeneously mixed ninth grade students that come from a variety of backgrounds, academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally. Most of, not all, of our students have a history of struggling academically. Star Academy offers these students a different pathway to earning their ninth grade standards. In math and science, students use specific lab modules. These labs are equipped with stations that rotate. Students work in pairs and use many interpersonal strategies for problem solving. This model gets away from lecture-heavy curriculum and allows classroom teachers more one-on-one time with students. English class is focused on accelerating student reading level. It's heavily intervention-based with supports. Students are more prepared for success in all classes when their reading ability increases. Just last week, we did post-benchmark testing on our English classes. 40 out of 57, which equates to around 70% of our students, showed significant growth in their Lexile score for reading comprehension since the beginning of the school year. Social studies uses a focus on themes. Students discover as much about themselves as they do about history through connections deliberately designed by staff. All of our classrooms utilize circles to discuss topics ranging from current events to personal stress, or just to check in to see how their weekend was. So what does the data show us? Currently, 30 out of 61, or 49.2% of our students are on pace to earn all of their ninth grade standards. This number does not include students that will only need to meet a few standards in either a recovery lab setting or summer school. In comparison, 5 out of 23, or 17.2% of students that were recommended to attend Star Academy this year and chose not to, are currently on track to attain all of their ninth grade standards. Yes, we would love to see the 49.2% be higher, but 49% compared to 17.2% tells me there is undeniable value to our program and what it has been able to do over the past 2 years for our students. So I now have 2 of our success stories from this year. Devin's to my left and Abdullahi's to my right, who maybe have a few things to say about the program, what they like about it, and how it's been successful for them. So I'll turn it over to whichever one wants to start.
My name is Abdullahi Saeed. I'm a ninth grade student at Star Academy, and I just wanted to say that at the beginning of the year, I was really I was really having absences, not doing good behavior-wise and academically, but now I think I transformed myself to being a good student, and I think having all honors. And I think I improved more in 8th grade, because in 8th grade I was like texting a lot of people, but I think I transformed that too. I don't think about that stuff anymore. Yeah, I'm done.
My name is Devin Turian. I'm also another LHS student at Star Academy. I just want to say a few things about the program and how it helped me. This year, well, coming into my 9th grade year, I was like, oh, the first year of high school can only get worse, right? But Star Academy really helped me out this year. Helped me get caught up on my work. I'm still catching up on my work right now, but it helped me, you know, I feel more, I don't know, how should I say this? involved with myself and the world around me when it comes to like my classes and science. We just went on a field trip to Thorncraig to learn about how to calculate how much carbon is stored inside a tree and where it's stored. I thought that field trip was really solid. I learned a lot from it. And if I could recommend this to the incoming ninth graders, I would. Thank you.
I want to be respectful of time, but I know too that we have Siad, who is Abdullahi's dad, who had something written. I don't know if you want to come read it for everyone and say a few words about the program. You want me to read it? He appreciate it. He chose to defer, so I'll read it for him. So it says, "Dear teachers, I just want to take some time to express how much I enjoyed being this honorable institution of ours. I cannot think of an institution that could have made these past years a special and exceptional one than this institution. You truly are outstanding institution because of your sheer dedication to your students. Without you, my child would not have been able to master certain subjects the way he did. Being able to count on you for extra help and clarification was really special to him, and they showed me how much you all care about the happiness and success of your students. Thank you for a great school year and for always going the extra mile as a school. I appreciate it more than you will ever know. Sincerely, Siad Abdi," which is Abdullahi's dad. And we also have, I don't know if Mrs. Rennie wants to say a few words. I mean, everyone may as well pipe in at this point. She usually has something to say. So.
I'll stick to the 3-minute limit. Many of you may know me as a former teacher. I've been with Lewiston for 19 years. I became a social studies teacher at STAR at its beginning last year, and it's the best decision I've ever made as a professional. I was at the middle school for 17 years, and I just felt that I wasn't meeting the needs of the kids that needed me the most. And STAR, I didn't really know what it was. None of us did. But I took a leap of faith, and Jake said, "Rennie, you can do this." So I love my job. I love my kids. Some of them more than others. We have time to bond with kids. We have time to talk serious with kids and not serious with kids. We have a location that allows us to do what we need to do. I hope STAR continues, and I hope you give it the time it needs to show the data that we'll have. We want to see graduation, and we'll see who's marching. I told them I will stand there and I'll wait for them to come across that stage. I'll be there. They have to do their work. And I'm proud of all our kids. I'm proud of all of them. And I hope you continue to support STAR, please. Thanks.
Any discussion or questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and say something. What I heard are different pathways to better experience and learning. And I think that's the part that always been key in the last couple of years that we've been talking about STAR Academy. It often is, what is that? And that's the key to the description I just heard. And it's also to allow growth. And we want that in all our students. And what I heard also was that STAR might not be perfect for every student, but ninth grade might not be perfect for every student. And that's why oftentimes teachers will recommend this to certain students. And that's what makes STAR very exceptional. What I heard from the students were, it transformed myself. That's one. And the other student says, it involved myself in learning. So they're talking about themselves and how education has become an experience for them. That's what we want to hear from our students. And what I heard from Miss Rennie was that she loves her job. And I know you would love it anyway, but I think Star Academy just allows that to even grow further for yourself in the experience of education as well. So I really admire that. The nice thing about Star Academy is now it was a grant that helped start this program. The equipment that came with that grant is owned by the school district now. So that's amazing. And so I hope we can continue the program as well, seeing the growth and allowing enough time for that to happen. And near and dear to my heart is my son, Steven. Who knows Steven? You guys know Steven, right? Who cannot know Steven, right? So Steven really enjoys the program. And he was aware of it probably before most students. I asked him to inquire, and he talked to his friends that were in the program last year, and he was excited to attend the program. And before he knew it, before he could even talk to his teachers, they recommended it for him. And he really enjoys he loves education, but he really loves the level of how he can learn as well within the program. So what might be intimidating for you guys next year is that you're going to 10th grade. That might be an experience, but now that you have this experience, you can probably move ahead forward much more effectively than you would probably just going to 9th grade. So I really admire that. So thank you for all the efforts and work that you've put into Star Academy. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming tonight. Any other discussion or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move ahead. And actually, yeah, we'll leave you time to move. All right. So now we'll actually move back to item number 9, to receive and approve the second reading of policy IKA. School committee member Tina Hutchinson and Lewiston High School principal
A proficiency-based diploma. Some of us thought we should have gone up to an 80. Some wanted to keep it at a 70, but we settled on a 76 of this, and it will be 100% of the standards taught. Now that means there's a lot of work to do still at the high school to make sure students have the support and help they need to reach that, as we know there are many that will probably struggle to come up with that 76. And those are the basic changes. What we will do is Jake is here. He's worked really hard. This has been vetted with his teachers. He met with the freshman teachers, content leader teachers, over several hours to come up with the language. Then we went to the high school PBL committee where we deciphered it some more. And last week there was a public meeting for parents and the community where we got even more input. And then the teaching and learning subcommittee worked on it today and made even more changes. So that's where we are now. And we'll open it up for questions.
Would you like to add anything to that?
I think she nailed it, and I can answer any questions you have.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, a question. Let's see, on page 4, it was that first paragraph. When it says any changes in the number of reporting standards require approval of the building administrator, could that be for a whole class or just an individual student?
I think the intent of that language was really around if there's an interruption in a particular class that we would adjust accordingly, but through administrative approval. The one example given was sometimes we have blue-white days. Let's say we lose 4 blue days to snow, and there's just no way in our calendar to make them up. A teacher might request to use 10 standards or 9 standards instead of 10 because they weren't able to get to the 10th standard, and that was the intent of the taught portion. It's not something we foresee often, but we wanted to have that provision in there, especially trying some new things with scoring.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, is there another question by Mr. Jensen?
No, no question, but I have some comments about this. I was hoping we would go into more discussion about this. I guess, I really should have started off. Under the proposed system, it still seems like we're failing the students who could otherwise prove they know the material but can't achieve a 70 or 76 average due to circumstances in their lives. It seems like that was one of the main reasons to change to a proficiency-based learning system. It seems more like we're just raising the bar for students rather than ensuring that they actually know things that they're supposed to know. To me, 76 is not much different than a 70, just raising the bar. We're still using the old type of system, not ensuring students actually know the material. Excuse me. You think of like, maybe like a standard is student understands the causes that led up to the Spanish-American War. To me, it's they either know the causes or they don't. I feel like averaging out like in a mid-70 or something, I feel like you should either know it or you don't know it. Also, regarding student motivation retakes, I know retake policy is policy of the school, so it's not something that we would cover here. I guess I am a little curious about that. Also, I mean, what I'm thinking as far as like retakes go, my input would be that when students know they can retake it pretty soon after, it does cause less motivation in students. I work as an ed tech. I can kind of see that behavior a lot. So I mean, I guess if I was designing the system, maybe you can get one attempt, and you can only get a 70 at the most. If not, if you want to retake it, you have to earn the credit recovery at some other program in the summer, something like that. Let's see. Also, as I've stated before, the 0 to 100 scale does not reconcile with the 1 to 4. The whole point of proficiency is either you haven't attempted it, you've tried it, and you still haven't mastered it, or you've mastered it. To me, exceeding is not even necessary as long as you know the material. I feel like that's the most that you need. And so the idea of kind of merging the two, it never makes sense to me. It never will. I do appreciate the effort, though. I know at the there was a meeting last week where Principal Langlis got input and made a presentation to community members. I know I brought it up before, and one community member brought it up there. Why can't the habits of work grade be reflected in a 0 to 100 score? So you can grade based on they either know the material, they don't. They know the material, good, let's give them a diploma. They've met the standards that we're looking for. And the 0 to 100 score could better match how active a student is. You could use that for academic eligibility. It'd be a much easier process, in my opinion. Let's see. I know I'm kind of all over the place, and I apologize. Also, I've had some serious issues with the process here. I don't feel like I've been able to give my input here. Even now, the board is not having much of a discussion about this issue, and it's extremely frustrating for me. I've had a lot of input to give on this. I've been told I can't join the committee that is doing this. And again, I do work as an ed tech over in Auburn, so I work with students, and so I'm on a couple other committees. I do have a lot on my plate, but I mean, as far as the big issues to me, it's school funding and it's PBL stuff. I remember 4 years ago, I was sitting in the audience seat listening to the stuff as the years went on. So I do have some strong opinions about it, and I don't feel like I've had a chance to actively give my input to the board and actually have it taken seriously. I've been told I have to submit it in writing. I can't just say it at these meetings. A lot of this I've already said before. And so even asked to be a part of the committee, I wasn't able to. And so even now, it feels like this is the only opportunity I have to give my input and actually have like a discussion back and forth. What are the benefits, positives? And even now, it seems too late at this point. I'm very frustrated. To me, it feels like I don't get to have my input in this. And so when I feel that way, to me, it's like, how do I feel about all the parents that have reached out to us and given their input? Are we really listening to them? All the teachers, the same thing. And it's tough for me to go back to my constituents and say, I had some strong feelings about this. I tried to give my input, and I was ignored. So I do have some serious problems with the process. Overall, are these better changes than what currently exists? Absolutely. No question. I'm not going to argue that. And I do appreciate the hard work that the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee's done. I really do. I'm going to vote no because I just don't agree with a lot of the changes here. I don't agree with the process. I think it's wrong that an elected member can't have their input properly accepted. So the process, I think, needs to change going forward here. Overall, it's better than what it was before, but I could not go to sleep tonight voting in favor.
Ms. Ray.
So I have a question. On page 3 of the two matrices that we see here, the indicator in the 1 through 4 for the score of 4, oh my goodness, is exceeds, and then in the grades 9 through 12 reporting is exceptional and not exceeds. And I was just curious about that conversation and how that kind of shook out either last week, tonight, whenever that happened. Just curious.
So this was a discussion this afternoon and last week and the meeting before that. And I think part of what the issue is the high school teachers, when they met, wanted a way that students could achieve more than that 93. And if you look at the descriptor, it puts that they've gone above the expected, which at the level at the high school, they're probably a pretty exceptional student if they've gone past what the expectations are. And Jake, you can explain it better than me, so this one's on you.
I'll just add that I think the language used in that level from 94 to 100, exceptional descriptor, that was, I think, a great compromise between hearing what students wanted to be able to do within their academic realm and understand the scores for, and also parents who are saying, I need to understand what that means. And when we looked at standards and complexities, to go beyond at the high school level, it seemed like an adequate way to report out. At the end of the day, we want our students and our parents to understand what we're reporting out, and also to be able to fit this in our school profile so that colleges understand. And we had some challenges in that communication with our system currently, as far as people understanding what it meant for them. So I would say that the language in that 94 to 100 range was heavy on student and parent input and consideration of, at the end of the day, we're a community school and we want parents and students to understand what scores they're being issued, so they can look at something and have a sense of what it means to them, and eliminate some of the confusion around the scores. So I would say that the word exceptional, we got into that from a semantic standpoint. I don't know that word was the perfect word, or in a critical way, but really it's about the descriptor. Students who are really doing what they're expected to do at a very high level would land in that range.
I think that reflection is really great, and it's great to hear that it got fully hashed out because it feels aspirational and motivational as well. So I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Ms. Esterbrook.
Yes, thank you. And I also want to say I was at first strongly, I was like, ooh, exceptional just doesn't fit there. But then when we asked Matt, he said he really liked the word exceptional, and that sold me, because I feel like he's a top student, and if that motivates him, then I'm on board with that. So,
Which brings me to my next subject, and I'm glad you raised your hand, because I was going to call on the students to get their perspective, because I know Matt was in attendance for that last meeting.
So at the last meeting right before this, Mr. Legolas I forgot exactly how you said it, but in high school classes, like just the way I think of like the APs, like kind of the really classes that like the curriculum and like how it's set up is not really up to us. It's like really unique in the way it works, and some like your tests and exams, like they can't always have the same exact simple setup of you know a little bit, you know what you gotta know, and then you know more than what you gotta know. Like some classes you just can't set up that way. So I think the exceptional really fits that better. So I don't know. I think it's that.
Any other discussion from the board?
yes, I want to acknowledge Luke's opinions and thoughts on this, because I think a lot of us have felt as though we didn't have input and say on it. Even though I was in the teaching and learning committee, I felt like everything was done kind of behind the scenes a little bit. But I also recognize that, our goals for the Lewiston School District is focused on proficiency-based learning. Am I correct? So we kind of we still have to set these standards to that. And I do really like the descriptors, and I think that there has been a lot. I like the fact that proficiency has been taken out of all of this. And so I think this is I hate saying this is a good starting point, because I want us to keep moving forward, and so we can work on the other things such as habits of work and test taking. And I think that, not habits of work, I think that was the wrong thing, but test taking and all those things. What I'm under the impression is that once we get this going, then you guys can all work on those things, because it's important. We all know that's important. We need to make sure that our kids are motivated and can't, I think that not taking tests over and over and doing all that, I think you're right. That was a big concern. And also another part of that, what I really wanted to make sure was that when it comes to time for our children to graduate, apply to college, I think that now we can better, I don't know the term, Jake, what was that? Yeah, differentiate the students and make a rubrics? No, wait, what is it?
The school profile.
School profile, there we go. So to reflect this, so that when they do apply for college, that they're gonna understand it a little bit better. That's the goal. I don't see that everything is perfect here, but it's never going to be perfect, I don't think, in everybody's eyes. So, and I'm okay with you voting no. I'm going to vote yes to move this forward, but I understand the frustration that has been on many of us on the board. But I do feel a little bit better with what we have here. So,
Ms. Ray?
Just one more question that committee member Perks had pointed out to me earlier, and I don't think she's going to ask on, so I'm going to. On page 4, when we're talking about Lewiston High School employing a weighted grade for AP classes, using a weighted factor of 0.025, could you just explain a little bit more what that looks like? Is that, I'm going to sound dumb, is that GPA, or is that on the 100 point?
It lands as an addition on a transcript. So it recognizes that the student took an advanced placement curriculum, which is far more rigorous than the standard curriculum.
So it continues to add to that motivation and aspiration of students for their achievement.
Yeah.
There's no further discussion from the board. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience? We did hear from one person earlier on the non-agenda item, but in regards to this, but any others? If you could come up to the podium.
Cameron McClure Richard, I live in Ward 5. I've been part of this process for quite a while now, three years. I've been on the high school committee, and I just want to recognize the hard work I think that went into this. And I want to also really strongly recommend that we continue those group forums that we had last week. That was incredibly well attended. We had 35 parents there, and some really, really great ideas came out of that had never come to surface in the high school committee. So I think, I've stressed that a lot, getting the voice of the parent in there, and I think we've proven now that that's actually going to be very effective. Some folks didn't understand a lot of the parts and pieces, and there was a lot of teaching that had to happen, but I think it's an effective strategy. So, and if there's a way to videotape that, and that it's happening, would be nice, but that it be available so people could watch it at a later time, I think would also be really effective if there's any way to make that happen. But probably one of the most productive conversations I've been a part of anyway. So just really encourage that to continue on all levels. And I think we talked a little bit about how, all by itself, being something we need to educate families on more, because I don't think people truly understand the value of that, and that it really should be equal and not separate or less than. So, I mean, it should be separate, but it should also be equal too. So, and I think that's just going to take education and time, and maybe not part of another conversation, but its own conversation. So, thank you.
Any others from the audience that would like to speak? All right, seeing none.
Can I add just quickly,
Go
kind of
ahead.
separate of the policy? I think every one of you has shared thoughts with me that I've tried to include in conversations. But as Karen said, that parent forum last week, I thought was really good. They got to ask questions. We got to ponder things differently. It was a very welcoming format. And one person was able to record it, I think live, but then also post it. I think, don't quote me on that. But again, it gave people a chance to, I think importantly, hear not just my voice, but also the questions being asked. So I would be supportive of that format. And I want to acknowledge parents like Karen who have absolutely made a conscious effort to be involved in this process in honor of their kids and their education. So thank you to them as well.
I'd like to just add, thank you for putting on the public event. There were 36 people in attendance that I could see, from students, teachers, parents. And Tina had asked me to help her with note taking. Certainly shared that with her. And, once this finally goes through, there's a lot of other policies that we're going to have to look at to answer some of the questions that we're hearing. And not only from the board, but from the community. One of the things that I took away from the meeting was that we definitely need to improve on our communication. And that's not just the tools that we use, as in PowerSchool, which I think will definitely improve, but formats like you mentioned, you'd like to have more of these meetings to get, not only to present the information, but also hear back and to respond to that in a way that's effective. So I really appreciated that. If we can't communicate more effectively, this just won't succeed. It's plain and simple. Even if we have to change it, it still won't succeed if we don't improve the communication level. I even heard a father say he doesn't see any communication coming back from the school more than what he might email or say, but he's not sure where his student, his daughter or son, is at this current point. So that's a difficult thing when you can't communicate, and so that's where you're going to get those struggles, and I certainly see that. But I also want to say thank you to everybody involved. I mean, we've heard from just about everybody. I'd like to say everybody, but there'll be somebody else that we haven't heard from. But I think we've heard from every person in the district in some way, fashion, or another, whether it was email, text, messenger, publicly here at this podium, just about everywhere. Just like Karen mentioned, it's been years, and I think we've come to this point and come to a very effective revision of this policy. So thank you for all the efforts that you've put into this. I even remember talking with RJ and Matt several months ago, and the frustrations that they had, and very sincere frustrations. I remember hearing that. But to see them today and hearing what they have to say is very encouraging. So thank you for the involvement that you students have had in this process as well. All right, coming back to the board. Oh, I see one other hand. If you could come up to the podium, your name and address or word.
I'm Sarah Morin. I truly don't know what ward I'm in, but anyway. I would like to say that I went to the parent meeting and I was appreciative of the fact that you were asking for input instead of telling us how you guys had voted and how this new process was going to work, but instead asked us what worked and what input it was. And it was very refreshing. Thank you.
All right, bringing it back to the board.
I would like to move that we approve the second reading of the policy IKA.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Estabrook and a second by Ms. Hutchinson. Any further discussion? Ms. Hutchinson.
I think you'll find this showed us a lot in how collaboration works when we involve all parties, all stakeholders, in putting out a product that is beneficial for our students, our parents, our staff, even when we don't agree, when we come to the table willing to open our ears and hear from everybody, we can do great things, but we have to do it together.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Any other discussion? Those in favor? Those not in favor? All right, the motion passes forward for the policy. Moving ahead to item number 11, to receive and approve the personnel policies for 2018 and 19. Chief Administrative Officer Bobby Avery and HR Director Carol Burnham will present. Your turn.
Yeah, I think this is, do you have questions for me? Because I presented a couple of,
Just a reminder of the previous presentation.
okay,
Possible?
so, yeah, certainly.
So this was originally presented to the school committee in executive session. There are some things that potentially could impact negotiations and the like. But if the board should know, as I said on my memo, that there were no concerns or questions raised. There've been a few minor additions, which you can tell by the track changes. If there are concerns that are should be discussed in executive session, we'll identify those and recommend the board go in. Otherwise, this can be approved in public session.
I'd make a motion that we approve the personnel policies 2018, 2019 as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Kerr, a second by Ms. Hutchinson. Is there more discussion from the board? I think we do.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what those changes were, and Mark, did you see what the changes were? To a,
I reviewed it, everything looked fine, although
okay, Leisha, yeah.
There is one change that was noted in the executive session that does not appear in this, what was provided in our packet. I don't know if we should go into session to discuss that. It's language, it's not wages or, yep. So on page 2, under affected personnel, we discussed the section that says all references to employees in these policies designate both sexes. Wherever one gender is used, it will be construed to include male and female employees, and that's incredibly exclusionary and conforms to a gender binary, which I find unacceptable, and I would not vote in favor of if that continues to stand in there.
You want to make the changes? Yeah.
And that was indeed discussed at the last executive session. You are correct. I wonder if to help expedite this process, unless Carol, Bobby have proposed language now. Do you have language, or do you feel this needs a little more time in order to come up with how that paragraph should read?
You're asking me? I can do it very quickly. Hold on. You can just remove the sentence.
So this would be the sentence, all references to employees in these policies designate both sexes, whether one gender is used. Whenever one gender is used, it will be construed to include male and female employees. Striking all that?
Yeah, there aren't many gendered references in here. I don't believe there are any, in fact. But that's reaching way back to a couple weeks ago.
And if I may, these personnel policies in one form or another have been around a long time. This language has been around a long time. So I would feel it would be appropriate, and if Mr. Kayer and was it Ms. Hutchison, if they would agree to amend striking that language, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, Mr. Carey and Ms. Hutchinson's are okay amending that, correct? Okay. So any further discussion? Okay, we need a vote with the amendment in the policy. Those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. No, thank you for bringing that up, Alicia. We appreciate that. Okay, item number 12, to receive and approve grant funds to promote coding in Lewiston Public Schools and the creation of the position of Coding Initiative Coordinator. Superintendent Bill Webster will present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Monique Roy, who is the chair of the Technology Subcommittee, is not here tonight to present part of this and promote it, but she did give a brief introduction to the board at, it was a month or so ago, and I'm very pleased to provide this concrete grant that we've received, and with the school committee's approval and with the creation of the position of Coding Initiative Coordinator, we're prepared to advertise for that position tomorrow. It will be fully supported by the grant for the next 2 years. And I have, I did not enclose in the board packet the names of the grantors, but we'll destroy these if the board doesn't approve this, but this is a press release that is all set to go if it's approved. And I've got some extra copies for Bobby, Sean, and Jake. I've already given one to Amanda.
All right, questions or comments from the board? Ms. Ray?
So I appreciate the depth of information provided. After the 2-year commitment, would this position sunset and be removed so it does not impact our budget going forward?
So that's a fair question. In the well, it's not in the press release, in the actual grant memorandum, there is the indication that the grantors will consider further funding should it prove to be successful or wherever the situation is. But the person hired would be with the understanding that this is for a 2-year period. Now, it's conceivable that this work may prove to be so outstanding that maybe sitting here a year and a half from now, the board would say, we need to continue this, but that's not what the intent is. It's tended to be 100% supported by the grant, and we've already had purchases of things like some additional Chromebooks for the 21st Century program at Longley. the Lego robotics, and some other perks, which have been very nice to see, and it's definitely benefited Lewiston students.
Ms. Gordamash?
Thank you. Is the grant and the position separate from one another? Meaning, will we still have these grant funds if we don't approve the position tonight?
That would, there's a committee that's made up of about 12 teachers, I would say. Dave Terrio, our Director of Instructional Technology, me, and Corky Ellis, who's one of the prime fundraisers behind this. What we found was that we're doing 100 different things in Lewiston Public Schools in regard to coding, but there's no oversight, there's no coordination. We've got teachers that don't know what each other is doing. And the bottom line was we felt, and everyone in the committee, after trying to do this on a more ad hoc basis, that we felt this position is just really critical for this to be a successful effort. So I think if the board accepted the grant and didn't approve the position, that, because the expectation in the grant is that it would be funded, I think it would cause some reflection and maybe restructuring of it. But we have not anticipated that further than that.
Ms. Parks?
I apologize, I have a stuffy nose, so if I sound funny, that's why. I just wanted to point out in the first paragraph, it said, the word confident should be confidence. This exciting vision of this initiative is that every student will have a coding experience that will enhance their, one, awareness of the power of coding, and two, confidence instead of confident.
Well, thank you. Do you see that, Amanda?
Ms. Hutchinson?
So is this a position that's going to only, does the grant take place during the school year or the summer programming, or both?
So the grant takes place year-round. The intent is to, and it's, Jen Carter is a big fan of this, she's on the committee, to pilot various things in after-school programs and summer school. And one of the things the coordinator would be involved, and you may have noticed it's reporting, if we do it, to Karen Parquette, who's in charge of literacy and math, is seeing how we can better incorporate that in the regular programming, and we think the STEM teachers in particular that we have is going to allow us to do that. So this will be a year-round effort.
Ms. Estabrook?
If we're correcting grammar mistakes, the second paragraph where it says the grant is being funding by two successful funded.
Well, I love how we're grading. Any other discussion? Ms. Hutchinson?
I hate to be the negative Nelly here. We just went through a budget season where we cut staff positions. One desperately needed at the high school, as the high school has had no new staff in many years. And we're being asked to approve another administrative positions. I'm sorry, give me my high school teacher back before I approve another administrative position.
So this is a coordinator position. It's not a supervisor. It's going to work primarily with teachers. It's 100% grant funded. And while we did make some cuts, I am pleased that the high school includes a new foreign language teacher. We have a new multimedia teacher. We have a couple new alternative education teachers. And I may have missed some others. Mr. Langley is in the audience. But time will tell, but the funders view the potential of that this being a program that will be looked upon across the state of Maine, if not the nation. We've got a relationship with Bates College on this. They have a new, I can't remember exactly what they call it, but it's a new technology. That's right, digital and computational studies. And they are already providing some of the supports for some of the after-school programs. So again, it's 100% grant funded, and the excitement of both students and teachers has been quite uplifting. Corky Ellis visited Longley, where the grant provided 20 Chromebooks for the 21st Century program, and the engagement of students exceeded any expectation that he had had, and we really think there's the potential for a strong carryover to a student being successful in coding to improving their academics across the board.
Ms. Estabrook?
Cares. Oh, well, I guess I'm unclear. So, are the 300,000 covers any teaching or coordinator? So it's not like it's coming out of our budget for the next 2 years. This is okay. So then we revisit this in a couple years, and okay.
If I may, so the cost of the position for the next 2 years will be somewhere in the 150 to 200,000, depending on grade level and the benefit levels. So this grant will also support the purchases of Lego robotics. There's we have a middle school team on the coding committee, an elementary team, and a high school team. The high school has identified 5 after-school programs, all with different coding initiatives like apps for telephones and cell phones and things like that, with a teacher stipend for each one of those. The middle school, they're going to be having a Lego robotics club. They're also looking at a program, Girls Who Code, which is a national program. And at the elementary school, we've focused on Longley, but we're hoping to roll it out to all the elementary schools. Again, if it would have been nice if I could have had teachers, because they're the primary movers on the committee.
Ms. Ray?
I just wanted to add, since we heard from the Lewiston Education Fund tonight earlier, that a lot of the grant applications coming to the board currently have to do with Lego robotics and these like dip, dash, and dot robots and expanding STEM materials, things like that. And so if we could move that funding off of the LEF and into this coding initiative and this program, because there is a need for it and teachers are asking that particular board of directors for it, then that will free up a lot more funds for things like the signature project of getting grade 7 out into the world and exploring Maine and those sorts of things. So just some context for what we see as a grant-making organization.
Just a question for possibly Principal Langlis over there. Yeah. I've been keeping an eye on the job postings in our district, and it seems like we're doing some hiring for sure at the high school. And but I've been trying to keep an eye on the approved, during our budget season, the approved French language arts teacher. And I do see a professional staff, I don't know if it's the same thing, but it says modern and classical language. I don't know what that is, but I've been trying to keep an eye out for it, and I haven't been able to see it.
So there are a couple things that we could probably talk about, maybe out of session if need to. But the MCL, the modern, and it's not modern classical, modern and classical languages. We put out an open invite for applicants. We would love to fulfill French, we would love to do multiple things. So we're trying to get any candidates that we can. It's been an area, Sean could probably speak to this as well. We struggle to get a lot of qualified applicants. And so I posted the position with the opportunity that potentially multiple languages or folks might apply, so that we can best fit what we have for applicants with what we have for openings. I'd love for it to be French.
So that is the position, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the
That we
MCL
approve?
it's a foreign language teacher position.
Okay, so that's the position we approved as a French teacher in the budget? Because in the budget it said French. Just want to make sure. Or is this a different budget item that I'm not aware of?
Unless you're thinking about the TCLP, which is the grant for Arabic, an Arabic teacher.
No, not thinking of the grant. Okay, so there's some clarity that needs to be done here. Is what you'd have a discussion maybe? Okay, because I'm even looking at the description of this, and there's really no description. If we are looking for a French teacher, maybe we should put French in there, because it's very unclear to me what it is. That's why I'm asking you, because I'm looking at the site right now.
It's posted as a foreign language teacher, in the hopes that we get qualified applicants to teach any language. We're hopeful for French.
I
believe the last couple of times that we've posted that in district, we were not able to get any successful candidates.
I understand.
And
And
we
we're
also-
having that discussion. We'll talk about it somewhere else, but modern and classical language doesn't make sense to me when trying to hire a French teacher. That's all.
It's the term used at all college levels for teaching and getting that degree.
Good to know. But at the same time, in the budget process, we were asking for a French teacher. The last time this happened, there was a lot of miscommunication, and I don't want that to happen again. And I have people knocking on my door asking for proper information. This doesn't look like the proper information for me.
Francis, if you don't mind. Does that have to do with what we were just talking about? Because I think that we need to,
No, Ms. Hutchinson was actually asking about high school positions, so.
No, I was speaking of one high school position that was cut, the standards recovery and online teacher that was cut from the high school during budget season. Had nothing to do with languages, just that one teacher. We need it at the high school desperately. We have kids not graduating because there's no staff, not enough staff to help with standards recovery, and we need that teacher.
Good to know.
I'd make a motion that we approve as presented the Code Initiative grant.
second,
Who made the second? Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, those in favor? Those against? Did I get everybody? Okay, motion carries forward.
can I speak?
Sure.
I want to apologize for what just transpired. I think that was inappropriate, and I apologize, Francis, but I think that could have been dealt with differently. Thank you for answering the questions best you could.
All right, maybe I misunderstood something, but I heard some discussion going on about teaching. I just looked it up. We'll certainly talk about it another time. So if I was taken the wrong way, certainly apologize for that, but it wasn't intended to do that.
So in the budget material that I distributed, the position was described as a foreign language teacher, and that our hope would be to fill it with French, but we also wanted to make sure we had the possibility of if we couldn't find a French teacher, to hire another language teacher because we have so many students that want and need a foreign language requirement.
We're no longer speaking about things on the agenda, correct? Thank you.
All right, we'll move ahead. Agenda item number 13, to receive and provide input on topics for workshops. Superintendent Bill Webster will present.
I am looking at the memo that was distributed in the packet. And I would just like to call the board's attention to a couple of dates that were not initially scheduled. One, we have on September 25th in a dinner meeting at the Green Ladle, a tentative workshop with the Lewiston City Council to discuss roles and expectations. In addition, on October 22nd has been reserved for the possible community forum that was originally scheduled for last February, and this board concluded that it was just too soon to have that. That is also at the Green Ladle. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. Then, just while I happen to think of it, not on this memo, but I have reached out now 3 times to the Auburn superintendent about a joint meeting with the Auburn School Committee, which is in our charter. I don't know if it's in their charter, but it's something that has been encouraged. And so she's going to speak to her chair about it, open to it, but really felt that they needed to get their budget approved and before they can even think about this. So that is scheduled for vote on June 12th. In the workshop memo, I also make reference to the interest in having a meeting at Martell. The facilities subcommittee, chaired by Mr. Jensen, talked about the interest in actually having a session at Martell. But there also was interest in having a session at Martell with this board that kind of would just give honor to the school and maybe recognize it maybe more toward the end of the school year. So what my suggestion was, and I just offer this as a suggestion, is that on September 10th, when the facilities committee subcommittee is scheduled to meet, that we, as that subcommittee, meet at Martell, tour the school, be able to make its recommendation, and then later on, more as a celebration and recognition, actually schedule a board meeting at Martell. And then finally, as we had talked in principle, the dates listed here are dates by and large of either, by and large, they're dates that there are no subcommittee meetings. And the idea to actually schedule a workshop, not unlike the city council. And so these are some of the tentative topics that have, in one form or another, come from one or more of you with a possibility of order. These topics could change, the order can change. It was more to get the conversation started and just to get any input that you have. Thank you.
And there was been some other board discussion on various workshops. They might become workshops as well, or they might be actually put into a regular meeting. It's just we don't have all the information available yet to provide a date or put it into an agenda item yet. So just keep that in mind, and we'll open it up to a discussion. Mr. Kerr.
So the first thing, the city council meeting, the title, discuss roles and expectations. I guess I'd like to have a clearer understanding of what that means.
So the biggest discussion that the city council had on the school budget took place with no school committee members present. Excuse me, except for the rep. Yes, my apologies. My apologies. You may recall we had a workshop at the end of March. We also had a school budget workshop on, I think it was April 17th, but it wasn't until the, I don't know if it was the May 1st meeting, I can't remember which meeting it was.
It was the meeting where it was not on the agenda at all.
Yes, yeah.
To
So
be more evident.
in fact, the conversation started, and I don't know whether to blame Ed for this or not, but he basically started the city budget workshop meeting with wanting to get an indication from the city council as to whether or not they would support the school budget, because they had not voiced that. Because obviously, if they weren't, it might mean some additional work behind the scenes. So that conversation then proceeded to last close to an hour, I think, if my remembrance is correct. And among the things that was said was what should the expectations be that the city council could reasonably have of the schools and the school committee. And I think equally significant, the school committee might have expectations of the council, particularly in things beyond our control, whether it be how we support families in the broader sense, poverty and other issues. So there was a request that we have a joint session with them to discuss this. I mentioned it to the chair. I think there are some appropriate concerns about what is appropriate discussion to have. And in fact, the chair helped me with the description to discuss roles and expectations, because I think it does go both ways. This is tentative. It's a date that works. It's a Tuesday. It's a day that the city council does not have a meeting at this point. We could certainly change that, and I'll go by whatever direction you give me here tonight. But that's a little more background on that.
So on the list of things, I just the only suggestion I would have, and I'm not married to it, is moving our budget process discussion closer to the top. And Bobby can chime in, but I'm assuming she's starting her process now, or slowly starting it now. So we may want to give guidance as soon as possible, so that as she works through that through the summer, she'll have that info.
Any further discussion from the board? Ms. Ray?
Given the motion and the approved motion concerning the regional service center, I imagine, is this on? Yeah. We will need to have further discussion about that. And will that become a part of a regular meeting, or will that be something that a workshop might be more appropriate for? I don't know.
So we've been discussing about meeting with Auburn, and of course they're right in their thick of their budget season. And my hopes is that once we have that meeting with them, that'll be one of the major topics of discussion that we could have with them as well.
So in my remarks tonight, I was going to address this in part. One of the things that we learned was there needs to be a public session on this ballot question, and it needs to be sponsored by the city council. And it's scheduled for 6 o'clock, I think, next Tuesday on the 29th, to have, I can't remember if it's called a workshop. I can't remember the exact words on it. One of the things that I was going to mention, because in thinking about the motion that the school committee approved about wanting representation, the agreement as drafted cannot change until the service center is operational, July 1. But that under the existing agreement, the superintendent, again, this couldn't officially happen till July 1, has the authority to designate a board member in his or her place. So if it would be helpful to this board, I would be happy to designate a board member, and that's something that we could talk about at the meeting on the 4th. I am working on I spoke to the city clerk, and she felt that a postcard would be appropriate to send out. It would be the least expensive thing that we could do, just to give people the ballot question and in simple terms what a yes or a no vote would mean. So that's what my intent is, and I'm going to be preparing later this week a brief presentation for that voter meeting on the 29th.
Any further discussion? Mr. Carey, you had a motion?
No motion.
Okay. Any discussion from the audience? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. Thank you for the information. Actually, at this time, I'd like to take just a brief 5-minute break, and then we'll return to session. Is that okay, everybody? All right. Well, I'll certainly take care of it. All right, moving ahead then. Item number 14, report from City Council.
Thank you. So a couple quick things. The LCIP was voted on, and you all received an email about that process. We were really far over the bond limit, and so removing the district-wide roof access and delaying the window upgrades to Longley that were discussed via email were really helpful for getting us much closer to our target. And then just 2 reminders for everyone. Reminder 1 is that education on ranked choice voting is available at the city clerk's office in City Hall, open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And reminder 2 is that absentee ballots for the June 12th election are now available at the city clerk's office. Early voting can be completed when you visit the clerk's office, or the ballot can be requested, and voted absentee ballots must be received by the municipal clerk by 8 p.m. on June 12th.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Ray? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. All right, item number 15, report from myself, school chair. It was mentioned earlier, top 10 luncheon. I don't know who's attending, but I'll certainly be there, and I will be making some remarks to the top 10 and those in attendance. That's this Wednesday. Business cards, were there any, I can't remember, that wanted business cards from the last meeting? I had mentioned it, Ms. Hutchinson. And Luke, could you just send me a text or a reminder of how you want your name written on the business card? And just don't make anything funny, like on there, just formal name will be appropriate. Anybody over here I didn't see? Okay, so just Ms. Hutchinson and Mr. Jensen, if you could just send me a brief email and I'll get that in process for you. And anytime if anybody wants that, just let me know. This is something I started discussing with Mr. Webster, but really haven't had a time to discuss it. We were talking about school visitations. We do have it on our agenda to visit schools, but during regular meetings. And one of my thought process, and certainly we can discuss it here this evening, about I could create a schedule about visiting each school as a committee just to get a tour. And then Mr. Webster can correct me if there's something against, some rule against doing that. But I find that when we're in a meeting, it's kind of more formal and set up, but it would be neat to just, at least for myself, to get a tour of each school, maybe at enough time, not during a school committee meeting. I know we've talked recently about possibly touring LRTC, because I don't think that's been the loop since I've been here, but I'm saying at a different time. How's the board feel about doing something like that? Indifferent? Well, not just LHEC. I'm talking about all the schools in the entire district, having a tour of them when it's not on the, set to a meeting now, just to get a tour.
I'd be happy to tour. I don't think everybody has to if they don't want to, but
No.
I would love to. I haven't been anywhere really besides a couple of the elementary schools, so it'd be nice for me.
It's a good point. It doesn't have to be everybody, just those that are interested. You could certainly send out a Google Calendar, yes or no kind of a thing, so we know who's coming, so we can allow whoever's doing the tour to be prepared in that sense. Any further discussion on that? I'm seeing some noddings of heads, but
Let's fall asleep.
okay.
There isn't a school in this district I haven't been through on a tour, so I will excuse myself from those. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I find that even though I know I'm familiar with the school, sometimes I find more information that I wouldn't know otherwise in a more casual setting and so forth. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. And those who are interested, just let me know what you think, and if there's certain schools you'd like to have a tour of. I'd be interested in learning more myself anyhow. And that's all I have on my list for now. I've already discussed other items, and we'll move ahead to number 16, report from the school superintendent.
Thank you. So I won't say anything further about the regional service centers. Security remains and increasingly is one of the top topics and issues in our schools. Today, just the latest event, and I know that Jake and his staff and I spent, and Sean too, because Sean was out there visiting, a lot of time that we didn't expect, and that is unfortunately increasingly the norm. Bobby and I, and I'm sorry, is it Louis that's going to be there tomorrow? Who's the third person? Louis Turcott are in an all-day security workshop tomorrow, sponsored by Maine School Management. We also have the funds that you allocated. That work is now ongoing in regard to our largest school, and I think that once we get that report, we'll be reporting back to you. It may be an executive session, we'll see, in terms of moving that forward in other areas as well. I also, we're spending a lot of time on reviewing the security with the new school, and there's some things that we have formulated, we're getting quotes on now to add to that project. These aren't necessarily things that we want to advertise, though, in terms of what they are. Another thing that I want to mention, because I may be coming to you on June 4th. We now have bids out for the high school paving project, which I think most would feel is a critical element of our needs at the high school. And it's interesting, since Jake started enforcing some of the parking requirements, it's like the parking lot in front of the Green Ladle is now full every day. Is that a fair statement? Yeah. So these additional almost 100 spots, I think, are critical. The budget for this was computed in December based upon an average per spot. Since December, there has been a 20 to 25% increase in some of the bids that have come in on various projects. For example, the school construction projects, and I have regular contacts with DOE, the last two that have come in have been 20% over budget. So I mean, these are projects like budgeted at 39 million, came in at 48 million. That type of thing. So it's not inconceivable that this project will come in over budget. The bids are open to be opened on, I think it's the prior Wednesday, which is the 30th or the 31st. And until we see them, we don't know. There were 6 potential bidders that went to the pre-bid required meeting. Whether they bid or not, I don't know. But I'd hate to lose this for lack of funding, but we will see. So I just wanted to share that with the board, and once we open them up on that Wednesday, if they are over, we'll do what's called value engineering, meet with the apparent low bidder and see what ideas they have to reduce the project cost. But if we end up still being over by some substantial amount, I'll be back to you, and you'll be the final decider of whether we're able to do that or not. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Superintendent, you had mentioned that they're doing the security on our largest school, which is the high school. We did allocate funds for them to do them all. I just want to make sure that that's still the plan.
That is still the plan, but we thought that it's, given that we haven't worked with this firm before, although all indications are they're absolutely excellent, but that when we get the report on that one school, I think that will reaffirm that that's the right direction, but we wanted to take that initiative. But you are correct. There is sufficient money to do that same level of review at all schools.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with item number 17, future agenda items. No motion is required, but any items that the board would like to bring up? Any from the audience? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Is there a motion?